Hi, I'm Raeanna, and this watercolor tutorial is for anyone that feels like they are just not artistic. We're going to keep it so simple by using only 3 colors. I have New Gamboge, Quinacridone Rose, and French Ultramarine. But you can use any warm yellow, cool red, or warm blue that you wish. It doesn't matter which brand. We are also going to be using watercolor brushes that are round, number 3 and number 10. Here is an example. It doesn't matter which brand. I just prefer to have that pointy tip. As for watercolor paper, I highly suggest you use 100% cotton paper. It will make a huge difference on the outcome of your painting. This is a watercolor block, which means it's glued on all the sides, which keeps the paper laying flat and makes it a lot easier to paint on. Okay, first I'm going to take my number 10 round brush. I'm going to mix some New Gamboge with just a little bit of Quinacridone Rose to make it more towards the orange side, and then a little dot of French Ultramarine to make it muted. So it's going to look like this kind of orange muted color. Just try your best to get it like this. I use more New Gamboge than the other 2 colors, and this is going to be in the background, so it's not really important how this turns out, just that it's just kind of there. So I'm going to let this dry, then I'm going to wet my number 10 round brush, and I'm going to put New Gamboge just on the tip, and we're going to use this to make our petals. So first I'm going to start with the tip of my brush lightly, and then as I make the petal, I'm going to push down and then lift up. Try it again. Push down, lift up. Push down, lift up. This is a good practice for a technique, and you can see that when I get more pigment on the brush, the petals are going to be different colors. That's a good thing. Let that happen because there's variation in sunflowers, and I love how this has, just dark and light mixed together. And you'll see how it works out when we do the second layer. So keep going around the sunflower, push down, lift up, all the way around. When you feel like your brush is getting a little bit light on paint, add a little bit more and come back and keep going around until you get to the side. I'm trying to figure out how to position my hand so I don't block the camera too much. I seem to do that fairly often, and I apologize, but I think you get the picture. We'll figure this out together, right? So there we go. I'm going to fix that one. Push down and lift up. That one was a little short, so I did it again. Now I'm going to do the same thing. See, wet brush, put the New Gamboge on the tip, and then I'm going to go in between the petals I just made, and I'm going to start with the tip, push down, and then lift up in between each and every petal. And it doesn't matter which direction you want to go. But do you see how it looks like the petals are touching each other? That's the plan. There we go. Push down and lift up. I love how sunflowers are just so bright and how yellow looks like a happy color. Sunflowers remind me of sunny days. So we're going to let that dry, and then once it's dry, we are going to mix some we're going to mix some New Gamboge, a little bit more of the French Ultramarine, and a hint of red until we get kind of a brownish looking color. The more French Ultramarine blue that you use, the darker it's going to get. So that's going to be what gives it depth. So this one, you can kind of see it's leaning more towards that blue color. but it doesn't take very much of the pigment when you're mixing to make it the darker color. So I'm just going to dab it all around the circle. If you've ever seen sunflowers with that dark circle around the edge, that's what we're going for right there. So I'm just going to dab it. If yours looks more brown, that's okay. If it looks more of like the bluish gray, that works too. We're just trying to make this kind of a neutral color that is going to stand out against the yellow. And then after it dries, it's going to lighten up. And we are going to use that same color, but we're going to add a little bit more of the yellow to make it a little bit more green. And we're going to put it in the center. So the new gamboge, add more of that to it, and see it's a little bit more green. Take a little bit of the new gamboge and just put it directly onto the center and dab it in, and that'll lighten it up and give it texture. And then we'll take some quinacridone rose and add it to the color around the middle, and that'll give it a little bit more depth. So see how it adds different layers. I'm just dabbing it in. It doesn't have to look perfect. It just gives it some color. Now I will take French ultramarine blue and new gamboge, and I'll mix it together to make a green. And as I make the stem, I push down pretty thick because sunflower stalks are fairly thick. And then I will make a leaf on one side, make it big. And it's okay if it has to extend outside the paper because sunflowers are big. So this is just showing how much bigger this is. Put a little line here, a line there. And after it's dry, I will take my number 3 brush and put a little bit of the new gamboge, and we will write sunflower at the bottom. And see, this is a simple way to make a loosely painted sunflower. Remember, sometimes watercolor has a mind of its own, so sometimes while we're painting, we're not just painting, we're negotiating. We're just trying to put the pigment down and see what happens. Thank you for joining me today to make some bad art. I think it looks pretty good.